And on Tuesday, September 12th, are you tired from hearing from us yet? I hope not, because here's the 359 podcast. I'm BVG. It's episode 282, and oh my God, are we talking about Apple again?
Yes.
This new startup company.
Is it?
I don't know if you've heard of them.
All right. Anyway, we just got through the big iPhone announcement, or like the big Apple September event. Yeah. They showed off a new Apple TV, new Apple Watch, but the iPhones, there were 3 of them, were easily the biggest thing that was announced at the show. Especially the iPhone. It's not the X, it's the 10.
It's the 10. They skipped.
I'm going to keep getting tripped up by that.
Well, yeah, they skipped the 9 because the iPhone 7, 8, 9.
Oh, God.
And Microsoft jokes already.
Either way, we've got Iyaz the Wolf Akhtar in the house with us because this is a big deal. Without further ado, we're going to get to the podcast. Send in your questions and comments. We'll get to as many as we can at the end of the show. And let's get moving.
And here we go for the recording of the podcast. See you in the chat in 3 minutes and 59 seconds from 3, 2.
Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Alfred Ng.
And with us today is friend of the show, Iyaz the Wolf Akhtar.
Oh, woo.
All right, so we have 3 new iPhones, the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 Plus, and the big one, the iPhone X. No, wait,
It's
I
the
mean
10.
the iPhone 10. Sorry, my mistake. But the iPhone 10 is probably the big one that we should really talk about. It starts at $999. It's got this new frameless display with an OLED screen. There are a lot of hot new things.
I think the biggest reveal of this was Face ID. Out of everything, because it has no bezel on it now, they don't have the home button anymore.
And therefore no Touch ID.
Yep. So your fingerprints are useless now. No, but they're using an infrared sensor, another sensor on the front to basically connect, pinpoint 30,000 dots on your face. And they also have neural learning on it where it can learn as you grow with it. So as you get wrinkles on your face or as you grow a beard or put on glasses, it's able to learn past that. What they talked about though is that if you have a twin, it's not that smart yet to tell the difference between you two.
Which is interesting because I have identical twins, and if I did actually have the money to get this phone, I guess I would try it on them.
Now you can get 2 for each of them.
You can still put a pin on them. You don't have to. I would imagine you could probably use just a regular pin code if you wanted as well. But when they showed off that design, we've seen this rumored for a long time with that big notch on top. But that seems to be explained by Face ID because of the array of different technologies that are in the top. Instead of it just being here's your earpiece, and here's your front-facing camera. They have a lot of stuff going on in there. It's not like the essential phone with a little, cutout.
I'm very excited about how the front-facing camera finally has portrait mode now, because now you'll be able to see all these really high-quality selfies. It's very important.
All right, but here's the big question that I'd really like to answer here. Is the iPhone 10 a big enough deal? I mean, has enough changed, or are they just playing catch-up to Samsung?
I think the 8 and the 8 Plus were playing catch-up to Samsung. I think the 10 actually does a lot to put it, slightly ahead of Samsung's, especially with the infrared sensors on the front, the AR capabilities that they're doing with it. And emoji, come on, dude, turn yourself into a poop.
That is true. They have animated emojis where you can use Face ID now.
That's only on the 10.
That's only on the 10 because that's how important it is.
I think they're kind of, this being the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, they're comparing to that where the iPhone really wasn't that hot when it came out either, but it kind of set the ground for a lot of things of what they want to see in the future. That's kind of how they introduced it as, this is the future of smartphones. I think that's kind of what they're going for with this, with more of a focus on front-facing capabilities as opposed to the camera in the back being the more important shots. And
yeah, with the high cost of this phone, it's going to cost people, and the delay, because this is not coming out until November 3rd, right, guys? The other phones are going to be out on September 22nd. So the iPhone 8 Plus, are September 22nd. But this high cost, $999, as you mentioned, $1,149 for the 256 gigabyte model.
Good Lord.
Basically, that's my rant.
There's going to be a bunch of people ready who want this device, but there's a learning curve too. Like we're saying, no home button. You can use the power button for Siri. You got to swipe up, which is different than using iOS right now. When you swipe up, you get Control Center. So there seem to be a little bit different usages for the iPhone 10. Excuse me. I was going to say 11. It's not even 11 yet. 10.
But yeah, it's, I mean, there is going to be a bit of learning to it, but at the same time, there's been a lot of griping for Apple Watchers for years now that there really hasn't been that much that's actually changed in regard to the iPhone. So I guess we can at least say that they've put a lot more emphasis into literally changing the design quite a lot and adding a lot more functionality into this thing.
Taking a look at the design, by the way, there's a huge 5.8-inch screen versus the 5.5 I think that's on the Plus. So they have a much smaller body, much larger screen, and that's going to get a lot of people just to look at it at least. And it has that unique, bezel and that notch, so people will know it when they see it. So that's probably going to turn heads still.
Yeah, I guess that's going to do it for us for today. There's also the new Apple TV, the new Apple Watch, but I guess maybe we'll get to that stuff on another show. If you want to read more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Alfred Ng.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
Thanks for listening.
So Adidas P4 in the chat asks the elephant in the room, what's going to happen with the iPhone 9?
7, 8, 9.
They'll still have.
Okay.
All right,
Good night, everybody.
See you.
He left. You already made that joke too.
It's still bad.
So I don't think that they really have to respond to it quite yet because they're probably going to have the 8S and the 8S Plus next year.
Maybe they'll
I
have-
don't know what the hell they're going to call the 10 though.
Maybe
Is it
they'll
gonna
have
be
two
the
lines
10S?
where like
XS.
their premium version, like the X, is only going to be in Roman numerals.
Right, but it's still totally
Well,
weird.
you know, they could always go back where they just drop the number and call it iPhone Pro. They could do something like that where they've renamed, like retro named things like, remember iPad Air?
Yes,
Yeah.
and now it's just all iPad,
Right, so
an iPad Pro.
but they don't look like they're putting a lot of work into branding it other than that giant X, which is strange since they want you to call it 10. All their promo materials
Totally
have that
agree.
X on there.
Totally agree. They should have just called it iPhone X and then allowed it to have its own naming structure
X1,
moving
X2.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, names are
The
dumb.
iPhone X1 sounds kind of awesome. I mean, granted, we still need to like look at and buy the iPhone X.
It
but
just
still.
sounds like the Mega Man naming convention. They probably just should have just went with that, where there's normal Mega Man, then there's the Mega Man X series.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But then Mega Man 7 happened and it was
We've
terrible.
been, and we talked a lot about naming conventions yesterday. I, for one, would like to say that the new iPhone 10 does pack in a lot of stuff that, you know, to me, it was a much more exciting phone than obviously last year's phone and the year before. So bully for them for actually developing something that was something a little bit more impressive to look at. I don't know if you guys agree.
Bully.
Bully for them is the
Bully
phrase,
for
I guess.
them.
I was,
Guys, I'm an old man
Yes.
now. I'm leaning into
I was
it.
staring at the comparison chart, and inside and all the phones are pretty much all the same tech, minus that front array on the iPhone 10. There's dual OIS on the back of the 10. But there's not a lot differentiated. I was thinking maybe they're going to get a better processor.
They still have a 12 megapixel camera.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
They have the same processors in there, the A11 Bionic, right? It's
Yeah,
supposed
they
to be
just
all
added
three of
Bionic
them.
to it.
So it's kind of this curiosity of, is there enough about it that differentiates it to go, I'm going to get the 10 over the 8 or 8 Plus?
What exactly do you get with the 8?
Yeah,
or the
I
8
feel like
Plus?
the
You get
8
wireless charging.
I feel like the
basically.
8 was a
Wireless charging, all of
massive like afterthought the moment they announced like all the features on the 10, because it was just the 8 feels like it should have just been the 7S, and then they should have just came out with.
Totally agree. It was an afterthought while they were announcing
Yeah.
it. Phil Schiller on stage was literally snoozing through that thing, just trying to go through the motions to get to the iPhone 10 announcement. He's like, guys, I'm just going to phone it in. Just wait for it. Wait for it.
Here's a phone for the poor people.
Which
No,
actually-
even that's like certain like
that went up.
Yeah, even that's like more expensive now.
It's
It's like,
$699 base
and that's
price.
why I also feel
comparatively.
like the iPhone 8 is still an afterthought, because if you're already going to shell out that kind of money for a phone, you might as well like pay a little extra for the
It's
iPhone 10.
$300 more though. I agree with you to a certain extent, but that's still $300 more bucks, which isn't a little bit of money, but yeah, if you are gonna, the other problem that we didn't mention during the podcast is that all signs indicate that the iPhone 10 is going to be severely limited even after it comes out in November 3rd. So good luck trying to actually find this device when it becomes available. It might not be until early next year or well into next year before you really start to see these streaming into the mainstream.
Now I've been wondering this, and I don't know how many people like had the same thoughts that I did during the Apple Watch announcement. Is that I feel like that's like the perfect device for somebody that wants to declutter from all the crap on social media and being like connected all the time on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all. where you really just want a device to stay like in touch with people, but you don't want something to stare at all day.
How so? You've got like a computer on your arm.
No,
all
but
day.
if I had that and I only but it doesn't have like a Instagram app that I can use to like or scroll around on or like a camera that I can use to like constantly take photos all day for Snapchat.
How much is that thing? Do you know?
It's
off the top of your
$400.
head? Yeah, I'm not paying that.
Yeah, that was the only thing that held me back. But I was like, a part of me was seriously considering getting that as like just like a primary like device, where like I'm not on social media anymore all the time because I'm already on it at work all the time.
Yeah, to get people caught up in case you didn't watch the Apple event, the big change with the Apple Watch Series 3 is that you've got cellular connectivity, which means that you don't have to have your phone tethered to it anymore.
Yeah, so you can make phone calls from it now. You can get text messages, emails, all that
Even
good
when you're
stuff.
surfboarding.
Yes,
apparently.
and I surf a lot, so
I surf, and my mom
and
calls
every
me
time
while
I'm surfing, I was
surfing.
like, man, I really wish I could be making a phone call right now.
Yeah, the other thing with the Apple TV was they added 4K HDR to the
With
Apple
the
TV
worst
box.
name possible
Yeah,
for
Apple TV 4K. So is it Apple TV's 4K? So what's the plural?
It
Just
just,
like
don't
runs about it
ask
in.
me.
So it's like
App-
RSBI.
it's just I don't know. They could have come up with a better name for that, but I'm not here to talk about their bad naming skills.
I will say they were the biggest, I think, surprise announcements. If you bought anything in HD on the Apple TV or in iTunes, you get a free update or upgrade to the 4K versions.
That's
I thought
nice.
that's a nice little thing. If Voodoo did this, that'd be like a huge thing.
do you need new hardware though for the Apple TV 4K stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, you
well,
need
that's
a
not
4K
fun.
The
TV.
that and the 4K, the Apple TV 4K is the first Apple TV to offer 4K. So you won't be able to just go ahead and look at that. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see it on your computer or your iPad or whatever. You're going to have a higher res version of it. I'm not sure about that.
Questions?
Are we finally taking questions? Oh, I thought
Sorry.
we forgot.
We're just waiting for you.
Waiting for me. I couldn't get you guys to shut up.
Well, it's easy. Just go
There's
shut
so
up.
much to talk
There's so many
about.
ways you can get us to shut up.
Okay,
For example, for one.
All right, we're gonna shout out to Watson, who's become one of our more recent regular listeners. So
What's up,
thanks.
Watson?
He wants your opinion on something. Just sold my 7 Plus and wishing I hadn't, as the 8 Plus isn't
that
really an
different?
upgrade,
Yeah.
and the X is too expensive. Should I opt for Apple Watch and SE for the same price?
That's
That's a
what
good
that was my
question.
plan, yo.
No, then you-
I told you should do that.
SE, you lose the waterproof thing, so the 7 Plus loss is
But the
huge.
watch is waterproof though.
Oh, good point. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. So,
Yeah.
so this device.
And you don't
yeah,
need
but
the
that's a big step down from.
It's a
big-
huge step
down.
A big plus screen to an SE screen.
yeah,
You're really
it's
gonna
a
have to think about
it's
that.
a massive step down because I've seriously been thinking about doing this. And here's the thing: like, if you take photos a lot, then you know it kind of defeats the purpose of having both the watch and a phone. You might as well just have the phone only. That's the thing. Like, if you're not like plugged in all the time, you're not taking a lot of photos, you're not like checking your Facebook feed constantly, and you kind of only want like a device on you to like know when people are sending you emails or notifications or anything like that, but also never being able to reply to them because you can't text on it.
I do like Watson's idea though, insofar as it's kind of like going to a restaurant and ordering 2 apps for dinner, which is super fun.
The
Sometimes.
thing, like the smartwatch with like the Apple Watch with like LTE features, to me just feels like a smart pager, where you get notifications without a phone, but you can't respond to them except for making phone calls. Which, if you used a pager, if you were alive when people use pagers, then yeah, you know what phone calls are.
What do you think, Iyaz?
About what he should do?
Yeah.
I think he made if he'd like
He
to.
made a bit of a mistake.
Well, yeah. I mean, but look, at least the 8 Plus, they do have that new design with the glass back. You do get wireless charging, which you would not have had on the 7 Plus. Should you get the SE plus the watch? Again, like what Alfred's saying, it depends if you take a lot of photos, because the 7 Plus had a great camera, and the 8 Plus has the same camera with a different sensor, but still 12 megapixels, but it's supposed to be a larger sensor. So it's really about photos. So if you really love photos, get something with a good camera, but your watch is not going to be that
Yeah, I
option.
can't even
Yeah.
take photos.
Definitely.
Not yet. One day when they'll be like,
But I've seriously thought about doing that, and I'm still considering it right now. So
All right, back into the chat. It's pretty polarizing. Go figure. More than a few people not pleased with the facial recognition, Face ID. Think it's kind of an annoying feature.
They shouldn't be
Some
pleased with it.
Think it's interesting.
I don't understand why they like. I know that they had to get rid of the home button, but I also know that
Why?
because they wanted the full screen thing. But I don't understand why they had to get rid of Touch ID with it, because
Because
Samsung.
nobody's been able to integrate a fingerprint sensor into the screen yet.
Yeah,
As
but Samsung
reliably.
just put it on the back.
Right. Poorly. I mean, like, it didn't work right.
I'm saying like Apple has like, you know, the resources to put it on the back with good design. I mean, that's been their whole MO. I have heard a lot of gripes about facial recognition as far as privacy concerns goes.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about biometrics is that you're like, the Constitution does not protect you from law enforcement getting your like biometrics from you. So if you're required to give up your fingerprint for something, they can force you to do that. They can't force you to give your password because that's like the Fifth Amendment. You're not allowed to incriminate yourself. So
you can't incriminate yourself with your fingerprint or your face.
No, but that's just like a biometric. That's not like a knowledge. That's not you giving up certain piece of knowledge that they wouldn't have. They have your fingerprints already. We just entered
a Black Mirror episode where my dreams incriminated me.
They decided that in a court in like 2014 that like they can force you to give up your fingerprints, but they can't force you to give up your passwords. That's why a lot of privacy advocates say just use a password, don't use biometrics. Now with this, you know, you can still have a password on the phone though. But you know they're pushing really heavily for this facial recognition thing, and there's a lot of concern that you know now a cop can just like if he wants to unlock your phone, take your phone and hold it up to your face and
then swipe up.
Pretty much.
Can you have like an emergency face if I'm frowning really deeply? Don't unlock. Is there an emergency face? There must be an emergency face
That's
option.
A thought. What if it had different shortcuts for like what faces you're making?
You're smiling. We're gonna have the front facing camera. You look angry.
If you make the right face,
the camera.
If you make the right face, you call the wolf. Like the wolf will get you out of it.
Here's the other feature. Here's the other things that thing that annoyed people during the demo. It didn't even work. He tried showing off Face ID, and it like bugged out on him, and he was like, okay, let's just put the password in.
Well, no, he switched phones. He went to the second phone.
But it still didn't work, though, right?
That one worked.
Not with the Face ID, though. He didn't unlock it with Face ID.
The second one worked with the Face ID, I believe. The first
Why
one
did he enter
didn't
the
work.
password in?
First one, I didn't see the password go on the screen.
I saw.
Right.
Okay, we can rewatch that. But
we will rewatch it.
But yeah, there are a lot of annoyances that come with Face ID. I don't know if you guys are planning on using it or not.
There was a company that showed off the fingerprint sensor underneath the display.
Yeah.
Rumors were Samsung was gonna do it.
Qualcomm did it.
Apple they wanted it too, but they couldn't get it to work reliably.
Yeah.
Which made me think, man, this year's not the best time. We got the cool, the S8, we got the Note 8, we've got iPhone 10, and they all don't have this. I bet next year they'll be like, we listened to you guys at Apple, and we've integrated it into the screen. We now have Touch ID back because it's probably going to be fixed by next year.
I don't know. We said the same thing last year about the headphone jack, saying, "Oh, we listen to you guys."
No, that they would never go back on.
Okay.
Adding another option that you
Too
never
much
have
courage.
to use, I think that'd be there. It also justifies that price, staying at $9.99 next year.
I like that idea.
I'm planning 11.
What
please stop stealing my Face ID, people.
What happens when somebody starts 3D printing your skull and using that?
Well, that was one of the things that they showed off.
That was
during
crazy that they showed that.
Yeah, so they said they worked with like Hollywood mask makers to kind of try to figure out a way to spoof their own camera. Because it's happened before. It happens for Samsung. Every time they come out with a new phone, they have their face unlock feature on it, and then within like 2-3 weeks, they show like, oh look, we tricked it with this photo that like we just put in front of it. Because it
sounds like it would be a little bit harder to do with this one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, did they mention that a twin will trick it? Like
yeah, they mentioned a twin, but here's the thing. They
First
also,
of all, I have a small quibble. Every single time a twin is mentioned, they always say it's an evil twin. Does the twin have to be evil?
Because if it was a good twin, they wouldn't be trying to unlock your phone.
Fine.
But,
I like that
so they
explanation.
mentioned how they got like mask makers to like replicate like people's faces in the same way that hackers could try to 3D print something and then put it there. And I mean, they're saying that it wasn't tricked. I'd like to see people get their hands on it and see what they can do with it.
At this point,
because that's what they did for the fingerprint stuff.
At this point, the bar has been set fairly low by Samsung because their facial recognition software, they even said, like, this is a new feature, but it's not really meant to replace...
Here's the difference between what Samsung is doing and what they're doing with Face ID, though. So with Samsung's, it was using the front-facing camera. They didn't have, like, infrared lens or 3D sensors or anything like that. That's what they're saying makes theirs... Apple is saying makes Face ID different with the infrared sensor, so that it can also detect in the dark and 3D sensors so that, or depth sensors, sorry, so that it knows that it's not just a photo. Like it can tell the contours of like 3D. Now with like 3D printing like a face though, like somebody's skull, they're saying that there's like some kind of like liveness. They also, that's where their like neural engine comes in, like the machine learning. So like I said earlier, how it learns to detect like your face and like if you grow a beard or anything like that. friend of mine brought up an interesting point. Like, what happens if you get like in a car accident or something, your face is scarred? Because like the machine learning that learns over time. So like as I get older and get wrinkles or something, then it changes that, like my face.
You would retrain it,
But
right?
it's
Not only
constantly
would you retrain
learning.
it, but
But
I think if you get in a horrible car accident, worrying about how to unlock your phone without the pin is probably not that significant.
I guess if you had your phone, suddenly would unlock it, you can't make an emergency call. Although you think you can unlock with emergency calls no matter what, right?
Yes, or with a pin.
Yeah, you can always make emergency calls.
All right, let's get to another question finally. Favorite design. Are banks going to accept Face ID as payment?
So they did mention Apple Pay, that you could use Apple Pay with Face ID because obviously it's supposed to work just as well, if not better.
Excuse me, I need to buy some avocados.
Look at it. Will banks start? will banks start using it? Yes. Yeah. I mean, like I have the Chase Bank app on my iPhone right now, and it uses Touch ID. So if it wants to continue to utilize those types of biometrics, then I would assume that it would integrate Face ID fairly quickly. Whether you can use that for payments or Venmo, yeah, maybe. And to me, that continues to add to the benefit of it.
Yeah, but there's some kind of SDK to take you from Touch ID to Face ID for the developers. I bet there has to be something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but not picture this like really awkward situation where you're just gonna sit there and somebody's gonna ask like, "Hey, can you send me that on Venmo?" And you can be like, "Okay."
Are you taking a selfie? No, I'm not.
It doesn't have to be that weird.
In the demo video, it looked like you were able to put the phone next to the point of sale thing, and you didn't have to like be hovering over it. So it looked like it's reaching out far for you. So I'm really curious if that's going to work, how well that's going to work.
I'm very interested to see how this works in person. We have a bunch of people that are actually at the event. When Roger gets back from SF, he'll be able to tell us a little bit more about the demos that he got to see at the event today.
I asked him to bring a photo of himself to try and trick it, but he said that it's not very likely that he'll be able to try to trick it because first you have to set the phone's password as that face and all this stuff. I think it might be a while before we can find out if it can be tricked or not.
Cool.
All right, let's slam through a few more questions before
Let's
we wrap
do
it
it.
up for the day. Halim, who else hates the giant lock at the top of the screen on the iPhone?
You mean the notch?
The little notch. He called it the lock. we
No,
call it the
there's a
notch.
lock underneath the notch when you're looking at the phone. And they animated it to unlock when you unlock the phone.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're really talking about the lock on the screen or the notch?
It might be
I think he's talking
both.
about the lock.
It is pretty ugly looking, but I think it's gigantic, so you see it and you're like, oh, it worked. Because then you still have to swipe up. It doesn't just automatically unlock with your face.
If people start to complain a lot about that lock specifically, if that's what he's talking about, then that's something that can be fixed with software, and you don't really have to live with it.
What else we got?
Plenty. Hang on.
Speed round.
See, now you're not at the ready.
I'm
okay.
trying here. I'm reading all
He's
this
working it.
crap here.
Hey, we
Not
love
crap.
we love our viewers.
Not crap. It is a lot to filter through. Everybody's putting in a lot of great conversation today. I'm still kind of convinced like we could just sit here and go bah, and then the chat just kind of takes care of
I'd be
itself.
so fine with that.
That's
Make our
pretty much
lives
what we do anyway.
Yeah, essentially. Some would argue. Let's go back to Watson. Do you think the new Apple Watch is still a gimmick, a novelty, after the introduction of cellular? I actually thought that was kind of an interesting
Yeah,
thing.
it's
But
finally useful.
help clear something up for me, though. Are you going to have to add the Apple Watch to your cell plan as another device on a family plan? Or does it piggyback?
Yeah,
see,
it's another
that's-
device.
seems likely.
I
That's
asked.
lousy.
I saw from AT&T that you'll have to pay $10 extra a month for the watch feature.
Okay, honestly, I expected a lot worse than $10
But that's just
a month.
AT&T. I don't know what it's like for other carriers.
I wonder if somebody would like try to incentivize that
But
as
going back
a
to-
provider to try to
Well,
get you
T-Mobile
to...
had this thing a while ago. They got rid of it now because it was costing them so much
Full
money.
disclosure, T-Mobile is sponsoring us today.
Oh, cool.
Well, they got
All
rid of this
right,
anyway.
Anyway,
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
You can look it up.
Just saying, be careful.
Eh.
All right, fine.
Going back to Watson's original question, you think the Apple Watch is still a gimmick? I mean, like they're on to Series 3 at this point. Obviously, they've been selling them.
And in the promo video, they're trying to show, okay, this is what people actually use this thing for. Because that's
Surfing.
always been like, what is this for? Why am I going to need this? Why can I always pull out a
Cheating
phone?
in Major League Baseball mostly.
Yes, that was also in the video. Where the Red Sox were like, this is awesome.
No, I do think that it finally has use now. I mean, I think when the smartwatch first came out, everybody had this whole vision of like the Power Rangers where they could like talk on their phones with each other and, you know, have like connectivity with that. But then when the first smartphones all came out, it was just, you know, hey, this can like detect your heart rate and tell you how well you sleep at night. And it just became, okay, that's cool, but I don't really want to spend money on that. But now with like this communicator kind of feature on it, I think I don't think it's a gimmick anymore.
I also appreciated some of the efforts that they put into some of the medical uses. Granted, they need to be especially careful with that because obviously the Apple Watch is not a medical device. But with some of the diagnostic features, they at least presented the possibility of it having some really impressive futuristic uses. But not now, not today, perhaps, but maybe a couple years from now.
And the fact that it's generally untethered entirely, if you have the cell version of it, that makes it more useful because you're not like, well, I have to have this other thing too, so then I might as well look at the other thing. But then you can leave your phone at home and run around and do whatever and still have that connection. That, I think, finally brings it somewhere where it's supposed to be. And they weren't kidding about the idea that they didn't make it much larger. They added a little thickness to it, but it doesn't
Just
look...
barely. Yeah.
So I want to bring up a comment from Puppy Proud.
Puppy
this actually
Proud.
got my attention. This has nothing to do with the iPhone X. Actually, has more to do with the iPhone 8, which is ironic because we thought we were going to see a lot more AR in the 10, but they definitely demoed more of it in the 8.
They both probably have very similar capabilities.
Probably, but it was definitely a louder statement during that part of the keynote. Anyways, the AR stuff is cool. Literally the only interesting part of the announcement, though. I don't know if it go to that extreme, but I did kind of find that feature interesting from showing the constellations and getting the stats on the sports players. Like, that was kind of cool.
That was cool.
That was pretty darn cool, right?
Yeah, I think Apple obviously realizes that AR is a very big part of the future for a lot of major tech players, so they're trying to stake their claim to it. At this point, I don't expect the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 10 to really have a ton of AR capabilities, but they're at least trying to, like, put their, you know, stake in the ground and
That
say,
game looks pretty
hey, we're gonna start doing this.
That game looks pretty dope, the one that they showed off, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of like Nintendo Wii like accidents like waiting to happen. You remember when the Wii came out and like people like broke their TVs and like hit their dogs by accident whenever they were playing?
But this is real life now, so they're not going to be throwing your phone at things.
No, but I'm saying like when they're like trying to shoot stuff on a table and they're walking around the table and they're not noticing stuff, there's gonna be a lot of people like falling and like hitting their
So
heads
it's the
on things.
Pokemon Go effect. It's the
Yeah,
same
which is
thing.
great.
It's already
I can't wait
yes,
for
it's
it.
already
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
What are
I'm
you
just
kidding?
saying AR D&D is gonna be sick. Everyone just got their like phone on the table.
Alfred, if that comes to the office, I'll join you for that.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
No, I just liked it for the sports feature, just being able to be like, okay, what's going on? Who's who just came into the game? You can actually have that overlay that's supposed to be the future, which we have not had, other than Google Glass, which was a fun thing.
All right, we're getting low on time, but I can't go a show without bringing up our buddy Michael Brown, who's always
Michael
full
Brown.
of really fantastic input. Michael Brown says, I think the iPhone X was a solid announcement, and then he goes on to have a comment back and forth with our new friend Watson, says, I'd like to see CNET test both side by side. Maybe the team can do a comparison video, and he's referencing the new Pixel 2 forthcoming.
Between the 8 and the 10?
No, he's saying
the
the 10
Pixel
and the
2.
Pixel.
The 10 and the Pixel, yeah, we
Oh, yeah.
probably will do
We
something.
usually
have to
do comparisons.
Yeah, we
of
do a lot of
things.
Someone's going to
videos.
have to do that.
Absolutely.
And then just to close things out
Double
today,
AR.
Brown says, what is something you think will be the killer app or feature for AR on the iPhone X?
Yo, AR D&D.
iPhone 10.
AR D&D. I
Yeah,
just
Alfred already said it.
I like a lot of the stuff that they presented with Google Lens, where you use AR as an overlay for literally anything that you need extra information while you're walking around town. So it's kind of like a pop-up video for life. You want to get additional information for a restaurant, get an idea when, you know, something is closing, what's available nearby, all sorts of stuff where it's just more of the information that you would find on the internet immediately available right in front of you. I think that is something that a lot of people are going to use much more often for AR.
Definitely.
Oh, you know what would be a great AR app? You know how like when you were a kid and then you'd be like from like people really far away, you'd be like, I'm crushing your head, like kind of
Oh
thing.
my God, yes!
If you did that with AR, it'd be awesome.
That would be a
Yes.
pretty
You
fun
wanna
That's
chime in
literally
on that?
that's literally a killer app.
I'm thinking, as dumb as it was, that an emoji thing, I bet you people are going to love that thing.
I figured you'd be more excited about I Crush Your Head.
Well, no, that works too. But saying like I never understood like when emojis first came out, I'm like this makes no sense, and then it like exploded. And this animated version where you have your own voice and they did the stupid cat
I mean, that's
fox thing.
that already happens on Snapchat.
It is Snapchat.
No, but I'm telling you, that as dumb as that is, Apple has this weird tendency to go, yeah, we know everybody else did this, but when we do it, you're really going to use it. Like the way people were using iMessage with all their stickers and all that extra crap that was on every other platform already. But people love freaking iMessage. So I think that's still going to be the big first thing because they've seen it already.
I think you're definitely onto something with that.
So this has been a really good discussion today, but I think we are just about out of time, and
Okay.
We're going to have to close it out because I know, Alfred, you've got a meeting
Yeah, I got
to
an
go to.
interview at 4:30.
Yeah, and Iyaz and I have to go finish top 5, so
Iyaz has
busy,
already
busy
left
day.
us. All right.
Ben, bring us home.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for all your questions. Really appreciate it. We're probably going to continue with more Apple stuff tomorrow, unless more stuff in the world happens.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing else happening.
359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, and, of course,
CNET.com!
CNET.com. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you tomorrow.